Wittgenstein was a beery swine who was just dish Schlegel. There's nothing nature couldn't teach about the reason of the riz. Socrates himself was permanently pissed. John Stuart Mill is his own free will. On half a pint of shandy was particularly ill. Plato, they say, could stick it away. Half a crate of whiskey every day. Aristotle was a beggar for the bottle. Hobbes was fond of his dram. And René Descartes was a drunken fart. I drink, therefore I am. Yes, Socrates himself is particularly missed. Ah, lovely little thing about a bugger when he's pissed.
the turn of the millennium that we experienced not too long ago.
Shawn, did you sing this at my wedding?
And I sang this at Glenn's wedding. It's not that bad.
My love is heaven in disguise. We are missing one important person tonight, Martin Bradburn, who has a lovely voice and was going to sing, is sick. So part of this performance is just dedicated to getting him well. So I just wanted to make that announcement. And playing Martin tonight, you've seen Shawn Marquis singing his song, and he'll also appear in the next act as Martin. And then I think Victor also, the gentleman right here, has also played Martin. If I can remember something else. But anyway, thank you for coming. This is my lovely assistant. All right, so.
The Feynman Lectures on Physics. This lecture was presented by Dr. Richard Feynman on April 3rd, 1962 at the California Institute of Technology. Volume 3, Chapter 1, Quantum Behavior.
I just have a few remarks. First, in the subject of light that we've been taking up till now, I would like to explain to you in comparison to the rest of the field of light that we've done almost everything. There are only two phenomena which we haven't dealt with, and one is the light or electromagnetic waves confined in cavities or in pipes, and the other is total internal reflection, both of which we'll take up in the sophomore year. Then we'll have done all of the important phenomena in electromagnetic radiation. It's a rather remarkable achievement. It is, I appreciate that we have gone through some very thick thickets, that is, when we did particularly the theory of the index of refraction. But in order, I thought it would be interesting for you to try to see then if you could understand all the phenomena essentially of light. And the main principles I summarized up there for anybody who wants to write such a summary. Of course you should. The point is that this is the bare bones of the ideas, and they should be absolutely coldly understood inside out by the time we're through. That's what's left when the whole thing is disintegrating again, because from that you can rebuild everything if you have enough ingenuity. But if you lose some of those pieces, then you can't rebuild anymore. So that's the bottom of the rock bottom foundation. The next subject that we intend to take up is the theory of behavior matter on a relatively large pieces of matter, especially the thermal properties, heat, and so on. In discussing it, we'll find that the classical theory fails almost immediately because it has to do with atomic particles, but we'll only deal with the classical part. That is the only part which we can understand from classical physics, but it isn't very successful. Unlike the theory of light, where especially at long wavelengths, the classical theory is an excellent approximation and we don't have to worry about the photons, in the case of matter, you get into trouble relatively early. Now, one way, of course, is continuously to skirt away from the quantum mechanical effects, but I thought that I would interpose here two entertainment lectures, if you would like to call them that, which describe the quantum properties of materials or the quantum ideas, so that you have some idea what it is we're leaving out more than to learn. To be specific, this particular lecture that I'll give today will undoubtedly be one which I should give later when you're about to learn about the quantum mechanics. And I think if I don't know what I'm teaching the sophomore year yet, but if I ever did come, or if you ever did come to learn quantum mechanics, that course should begin with this lecture that I'm about to give. And it will be done over again, the same lecture. So or if you have a copy of it after it's printed, that would be useful too. So I'm now going to give you, for that reason, because when skirting about the edges of the quantum mechanics, it's a good idea to have some idea what's in that dark cloud over there, that the purpose of these two lectures is to tell you something about that. So I begin with the lecture on quantum behavior.
Section 1.1, Atomic Mechanics.
Things on a very small scale behave like nothing that you know about or that you have any direct experience about. They do not behave like waves. They do not behave like particles. They do not behave like clouds, nor like billiard balls, nor like weights on springs, nor like anything that you know anything about. And the gradual accumulation of experimental information on the atomic and small-scale behavior during the early part of the first quarter of this century, which determined how to gave some inclinations on how they did behave, produced an increase in confusion which was gradually resolved and finally resolved, in 1926 and 27 by Schrödinger, Heisenberg, and Born. And they finally obtained a consistent description of the behavior of matter on a small scale. The main features of that description is my purpose to explain to you today. Because this behavior is so unlike ordinary experience, it's very difficult to get used to, and it appears peculiar and mysterious to everyone, both to the novice and to the experienced physicist. I, myself, for example, do not thoroughly understand it, and it's perfectly reasonable that I should not, because all my experience or intuitions apply to large objects, and I know what they ought to do, and the things on a small scale just don't do that way. So I have to learn it in a sort of abstract or imaginative fashion, and not by direct experience. Historically, the electron, for example, looked like a particle, and in the early beginnings of in about 1920-some-odd, it was found that it behaved in many respects like a wave. On the other hand, light at first, after Newton, people thought it was a particle. Then they discovered, as we have here, that it looks like a wave. Then in the beginning of the 20th century, they discovered it was like a particle again. And as I say, it's like neither. But one great simplification is this, that an electron behaves just like light. That is, the quantum behavior of these things, electrons and photons and so on, are the same. They are all the particle waves, or what you want to call it, quantum particles. And so when we learn about the properties of what I'm going to use in my example, mostly electrons, but it doesn't make any difference, it's the same for no matter what particle, including photons or light, that I would use. Well, in this lecture, I wish to tell you about the mysterious behavior right away in its most strange form. It's usual in such courses to first point out situations where the quantum mechanical behavior can be more or less understood roughly, more or less, by classical ideas, and to gradually build up a feel for the subject that way. But in fact, I believe that the feel which one builds up in this way is a feeling that with a little more thought and ingenuity, the old ideas would account for everything. This erroneous impression derives from a special selection of phenomena which such a method of presentation leads to. It only leads, therefore, you select phenomena for which classical ideas would meet with a misleading partial success. And so what I've chosen is a phenomenon in which it's impossible, but absolutely impossible to explain in any classical way, and which has the heart of the quantum mechanics in it, and it's the only mystery. I will not explain the mystery in the sense of telling you how it works, but I'll tell you how it works. And in telling you how it works, I will have told you how all peculiarities of quantum mechanics are always the same thing. So I've selected a particular experimental situation to describe which contains the peculiarities of quantum mechanics in acute form, and any other place where you have peculiarities is just another example of the same thing. So we're right at the heart of the subject.
Section 1.2, an experiment with bullets.
Now, to best understand the true quantum behavior of, say, electrons, we shall compare and contrast its behavior with the more familiar behavior of particles like bullets or waves like water waves in a particular experimental setup, which I'll describe. But first, I describe the behavior of bullets in this particular experimental setup. I have here a piece of armor plate with a hole in it, and behind it is a machine gun for shooting bullets. Then there's another piece of armor plate further away with two holes in it. And then over here is sand or something to pick up the bullets, or some kind of detector of bullets. A symbol represents a detector of bullets. And we'll suppose that the bullets could go through, so that the machine gun wobbles and the bullets go through the holes. Most of the ones that go through are the only ones I'm interested in. And when they go through the holes, perhaps they ricochet off the corners of the holes or something. It's not complicated. Now the first, what we're going to talk about is what happens over here. Now the first thing that I would emphasize is that these bullets, I'm going to imagine, are not real bullets, but they are indestructible bullets. They can't break in half, no? Okay? absolutely indestructible bullet. It's a little bit imaginary, but that's first. Then, what happens is that they always arrive in lumps. When you find something coming to the detector, what comes is a bullet. Boom. If the number of bullets per second is decreased very much, so it just goes boom, and then boom, and so on, then at any moment, if you have a whole lot of detectors here,